Our revenue management program had a ceiling of rates for every type of rooms. And then we saw that constantly was selling the whole year at the ceiling. So one day I told my revenue manager to let it free.
Hi there. I'm Sebastian Leitner, and welcome to The Turndown, a new podcast for hoteliers hosted by Cloudbeds. I'm so excited to have you meet Giancarlo. He's one of our recent guests on the podcast. He's a hotelier that I've met a few years ago at an industry conference, out of all places. We stayed in contact over the years, and he's invited me to speak at one of his conferences, and he's a general manager of 3 hotels in beautiful Florence. The podcast is about what's keeping him up at night. And I think it's a theme that not only him, but others are struggling with around the world. And you'll hear him talk about the different variations and the different issues around labor, recruitment, training, even competitiveness, right? Making sure that the pay or the compensation is fair. So there's a lot of challenges about recruitment right now in hospitality. Giancarlo, welcome to The Turndown. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm really excited about this conversation. As the general manager of ToFlorence hotels, I'd like for you to tell me, maybe as an opening question, what is keeping you up at night?
What is keeping me up at night? Well, many things, of course. I try to sleep at night, first of all, and I keep my thoughts out of it, because when the thoughts are coming into your brain at night, it means that your life is not going to be too good. So, but let's say the shorten of staff is still keeping me awake at night, because obviously it's a huge problem still. Let's say maybe a little better than last year, but it's still a big issue now in the hospitality business to find good staff.
You're actively looking for staff right now, I assume. How many vacancies do you have?
I still have, let me see, about 10 person, which I'm still looking at. I mean, some have tried to have them and they were not good. I mean, so it's the turnover, it's crazy. I just saw my contracts of last year. We have during the season in the 3 hotels about 170 people working. Mm-hmm. And last year I turned to sign 350 contracts, which is almost the double for every person. And some of the person that I have are working for this company since many years, like I do. But new staff, it's a real big problem.
So it's really difficult to recruit and then to keep? Are these sort of the big...
Both. Let's say the people in hospitality is so hungry about staff that they're offering better condition, better contracts to some of my good staff. And I have to say, since last year, 3 person very good of my staff have left me, but there was nothing to do. I mean, they had an offer which I could not match. Then, yes, everyone is still looking for good staff. So, well, it's the only good thing that it's not only your problem. When you are in the hotel, it seems that you have a lot of problems. You say, well, the other are all okay. Then I go around and visit the other hotels, and I see that the problem is everywhere. Staff not well prepared. Last night I was in a very big and fancy hotel having drinks, and there were only 2 in a room which was in needing of at least 5 person to work. There was only 2, and I waited 45 minutes to get a drink. So yeah, that's is keeping me awake at night sometimes. But let's say we are moving on.
So you've been in this industry forever, right? Well, not forever, but for a long time. You have great experiences. Is this, how can we solve this, or will we be able to solve this? Is this about, education? Is this about making hospitality industry attractive again? How do we fill the positions long term?
Both, both. I have to say, as you know, I have started an education academy here in Florence last
Mm-hmm.
year. But because this problem was already there before COVID, I mean, then it has exploded during COVID, but it was something that was already happening. People were leaving this job. I need that we need to make some efforts in through education to let see people how many different and incredible work they can do in hospitality, because I mean now everyone is thinking about, oh, I'm gonna working on the weekends, and then the wages are not so good, and then I'm gonna do a waiter, which I've done when I started, of course.
Uh-huh.
And even the dishwasher when I started. It's not that is not a problem, but let's say, and people, it's demanding and demanding. Sometimes when I do the interview, I need to sell the person which is in front of me the place to work. I really need to
Mm-hmm.
sell, show them that which there are a lot of opportunities. They can work in digital. They can work for social media for the hotel. They can do sales. And I mean, it's rare to find a good F&B,
Uh-huh.
food and beverage. Many position which people does not have a real correct vision what's behind the scenes in working in hospitality, which it's they can do a lot of things, and not only the things that they will teach. Even the schools are not teaching well. They don't give the vision of this job. Really, don't do. And then we will need to improve the cost of labor.
Uh-huh.
I was following a few things during ITB, a few conferences during ITB, and the way provision in which probably the cost of labor will rise 20% in the next few years, and I do agree with that, because now
Yeah.
if you want a good waiter, you have to pay well.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and the opposite was people will need 20% of their time back. So
Uh-huh.
uh, they can have the same wages, but maybe having a show week and working only 4 days, which is something that I found really interesting. I mean, there's few hotels in Germany which are testing this new way, and it's interesting.
That sounds interesting. So going away from 5 days overtime, 10 hours a day working, but to a shorter work week, and then be able to have as a waiter maybe more personal time, and
Uh,
growth
chef,
opportunities.
or chef, I mean, chef, they stay many hours inside the kitchen, which is uh, it's a tough job. I mean, to stay there for long, and not see the daylight or people. Even if now the new way is to have open kitchens everywhere, but
Uh-huh.
in many of the hotels that I know, the traditional one here in Italy is still a tough job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Reversely, so we talked about what are the things that keep you up at night. I'm curious what make you sleep easily.
Well, in this year has make me sleep easily. The faces of the young people that they have started my academy this year, because we were really able with it's a short class. Obviously, we are a startup. It's the first year. Um, they are a small group, but we really tested with them a new way of teaching and doing training. And for the very first moment, I say, well, you are already working for hospitality, and they were so happy. They were so
Uh-huh.
happy what we did, because we. we find teachers that were coming all from the industry. So no one coming from, a few, with only a few technical unit where really professional teacher, like economy and some other things. But then we took a lot of people from the industry, and which is a tough job, because then if you have just one person following a class, it's easier, right, to do teaching. If you take one unit, like let's say marketing or digital or design, and you or leadership, and you bring to the class many different people, it's very difficult for us to put together the whole picture. But when we are able to do it, and we were able to do it, the student gets a lot in return, because they saw people which they are telling the whole picture from different aspects. So they were really happy. They worked on real cases. We have been around all the hotels, and so following cases all around. And their faces make me happy. They have finished exactly last week, the first year, and now they are doing their internships all around Italy, and I'm very happy for them.
And are they going back to school in this fall? Are they?
They're going back to school for the second year this fall, and then they have a third year in Switzerland, because we closed a deal with Hotel Institute of Montreux, because it's funny, but in Italy, tourism, which is the 13% of our GDP, it's has not a proper university, let's say. So there's no Cornell, there's no Lausanne here in Italy, nothing like that. So I decided not to follow the public path of getting a graduation, and because I want to do it faster. And so we signed a deal with this Hotel Institute in Montreux. So they're going there for their 30 years. They graduate there, and then they leave for the world. Because can you imagine that about shorting of staff? This year, at the recruitment day of that school, each student has 6 offers in average. 6 offers to go wherever they want in the world: Dubai, Singapore, New York, London. You graduate.
That is amazing.
You sit and you have 6 offers to go wherever you want. So
I should go back into hospitality. I should go back and become a hotelier. Yeah. That is fantastic. That's awesome. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And congratulations on the successful program. It sounds like you have a fantastic group. Are you launching a new class next year as well, like in the fall?
Yeah. We're launching the guys, they're coming, the students are coming back for the second year, and then I have the new one, which I hope to have more people, because then when you're a startup, you need when it's an idea, everyone is looking at you like that. Then the project started, so we hopefully we will have all the double of the people we have this year at least.
Yeah.
So
well, congratulations. Now, I'm very curious on how you start your day in the morning, right? Think about your morning routine. Think about the things you did this morning, for instance. How do you start? I have an expectation that you have at least one cappuccino, but I could be completely wrong. So
no, you're right.
Help me understand what you do.
I'm having a cappuccino every morning, but I don't know where I'm gonna land in the morning. So I have 3 hotels to follow. So no one of the staff know where I'm going to have breakfast in the morning. But I do every morning have breakfast in one of our breakfast rooms. So there's 2 moments which I like in my day, which is morning and then before I leave, where I'll stay with the clients. I see the clients' faces. I talk to the clients and see what they think. Usually, breakfast is a great moment to talk with the clients because it's the start of their day. So you can give them some suggestion. You can tell them to go to the concierge and do this and do that. And it's a moment where they should sell more things during breakfast because
Really?
clients are relaxed having breakfast. They're not in a hurry when they are for leisure. And Florence is a leisure city mainly. So you can talk to them and you could sell many things at breakfast. Yeah.
So this morning you went to one of your hotels.
I did. Yeah.
Which one?
I did have breakfast at the Mulino, which is the only seasonal hotel that we have, has opened only 1 week ago. So obviously I have a lot of new staff, so I had to check that everything was running properly and that the breakfast standard where we want to reach. And it was an interesting morning. I found many things which were not as perfect as I want them to be. So we had a meeting after breakfast and stayed there the whole morning, by the way, because it is having so much new staff. Obviously, being a seasonal hotel, it means that except the F&B manager and the front office manager, they are all new. So you need to be there more than the others at the moment.
Absolutely true. What is a common myth about your job?
The common myth about our job, bad or good myth?
Either.
Bad myth is, you are going to work in hospitality, so it's something boring. And you're gonna go to the waiter, and that's it. The waiter like a servant, like they have this vision. Many of the people. The myth is that the hotel are doing a lot of money everywhere. They are doing a lot of money, which is not a reality. I mean, obviously, it could be a good business, but it's a business, so you have to be careful. I mean, in my career, I have managed hotels which were easy to sell, and some others were not easy at all to sell. So I know exactly what does it mean to be careful with the cost. But the myth, especially the politician, they have this myth, the hotels are doing a lot of money, and then they see people around the city and they say, and now in Florence they have increased our city tax. They have almost doubled it. Can you imagine the city tax after 2 years of COVID, where yes, we are doing well this year. I don't want to say we are doing bad, but we're coming from 2 years of nothing. So I mean,
it's still tough.
We need a period to restart our business back as it was.
When I spoke to you last year, you mentioned that your summer was fantastic. Your occupancies were high. Your ADRs were high. You had a fantastic summer, if I'm not mistaken. Are you expecting something similar this year?
It's even better this year. I mean, sometimes it's. I was seeing the forecast this morning, and it seems that everyone wants to come to Italy now. We have such a strong demand, really such a strong. It's a bounce that we didn't expect. I mean, it started last year in fall. I mean, we saw things changing in August, September last year. But this year it's really strong. I can tell you that my average rate now is in this hotel where I'm sitting now, which is the central one, the more important of the three hotels. What is the average rate that 5 stars used to have in 2019? So we have increased now, and sometimes I'm really seeing reservation entering at some rates that I say I never expect to sell this room at that rates, which, yeah, it makes not me sleep because sometimes I'll say I'm going to have a lot of problems about reputation because if you pays €1,000 in for one room in my hotels here, well, it's a very, very nice hotel, but €1,000 was what you were paying in the Four Seasons about 2 years ago, and now you're paying before COVID. Now you're paying for this hotel, and we had. I can tell you this: we had a ceiling. Our revenue management program had a ceiling of rates for every type of rooms. And then we saw that constantly was selling the whole year at the ceiling. So one day I told my revenue manager to let it free. I'll say, okay, don't probably we will have to see what the market is going to pay, because if I cut off the ceiling, and it has arrived to some rates which are really embarrassing sometimes, because we have such a strong demand. I mean, you cannot find a room now. I mean, from June to October, you cannot find a room here in Florence. Really, not find any. You have to go outside the city center, and never happened. Not even in the best year that I've seen in my career, something like that. I don't know if it's gonna stay, or at a certain moment it will end. But you can say that 2024 will be the same. If nothing happened in Ukraine or Russia or something like that, it's gonna be the same. Mostly are Americans, but we are seeing now a few Asian coming back. A lot more from the Far East, so Arabia and whatever. And yeah,
that was going to be my next question. It's like, what changes in travel behavior or pattern have you seen, right? Like, because now you see a lot more customers traveling than in last year and the year before. Are these new customers that have never made it to Florence? Are these new nationalities, new types of travelers?
Some new nationality, and then the other things that we have seen, they stay more. They probably they are going to. I talked to some of them, which, I mean, our average stay in Florence was 2 days and a half, and was already good. Now it's more than 3 days, and it's in some of the months it's more than 4 days, which is something that I found really interesting. And I talked to some of these people, and they say they're going to stay more in Europe. So if they're coming from the States, they're going to stay really more. So they stay 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They do the it's like after COVID, I'm gonna do the trip of my life, and that's it. And so I'll stay, and I'll visit as more cities as I can, and I'll stay there more. So I'm not doing like the Japanese in the 80s, that they were able to do 3 cities in 48 hours. I mean, but
so the trips have become certainly longer,
really longer, and you see that people it's doing that.
Yeah. Is Florence, and I'm really curious about this, is Florence a destination that is the reason to travel, or is Florence a destination on an itinerary within Rome, within Italy? Sorry, within,
No. Florence is the destination to travel. It was, I mean, during COVID, was at the top of many classification done by Tourism by magazine. For Condé Nast was voted the most desirable city to travel. So it's really a destination. And another trend that I'm seeing, by talking to this guest, it's that they are discovering new destination in Italy. For example, I mean, if you take the tourists from the US were going to the art city, so they were going to Rome, Florence, and Venice. Then the other place they were going was the Sorrento and Amalfi Coast and Capri, Lake Como. They discovered the Cinque Terre a few years ago. Now many of them, they're going to Apulia. They're going to the Dolomites, which I was this year on vacation, last year on vacation on the mountain, which usually is full of German, and I was amazed to see how many Americans were going there. I say, Americans here, I never saw them. So they are exploring more, doing more destinations, staying more, which is really quite interesting. It's something with it's a big change. Really.
Sounds like I have to plan my trip to Florence in November because I won't get accommodation before that, which is fantastic.
You have to. I mean, you can find accommodation even in those periods, but I expect rates to be high. And I'll tell you another things which I was talking with some hoteliers actually last week. Milan, which is known, I know you're going to be soon in Milan, which is known as to be the corporate city for Italy.
Sure.
It has always been that Milan was corporate. I mean, has become a leisure destination. So it used to be empty during the weekends and used to be empty since July and August. And now all the hoteliers are telling me it has completely changed, and now it's more leisure destination than corporate, which is amazing. And
That's
so
amazing.
there's a lot of investment now in going on in Milan.
We have to look back. I mean, it's sort of we talk a lot about pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. You've gone through a difficult moment in the pandemic in Florence itself, in Italy. You were sort of the epicenter of the pandemic to a certain extent, right? Travel was impacted. I'm curious from your perspective personally, what did you learn from this experience? What are some of the things that you've, maybe has changed your perspective?
Oh, well, it has changed all my perspective. I mean, my whole life has changed since in those 2 years. I mean, personally, my professional and my personal life has changed. So that day, I remember exactly the day where I closed the 3 hotels was the 11th of March 2020. So we keep it open for a while, even if COVID was already here in 2 weeks, because we were still having guests which were not finding the way to coming back home. So and then when every single guest has left the hotel, I closed the 3 once. And by chance, in that period, I was president of the Florentine Hotelier Association. So everyone was phoning me also. I had to take care of all my stuff. I was put away from my family because I had travel and I had contact with one of the hotel who has already been eaten by COVID. So I had to stay away from my family. Every single hotelier was phoning me and asking for my advice, and nobody was, in some reason, was taking care of you. I mean, so I was taking care of everyone that day. I closed the hotel, and then I came back to my apartment alone here in Florence, where I stay closed, obviously, for 3 weeks without exit. And then at 6 o'clock at night, one other hotelier phoned me and thanks me for what I have done for the hotelier. And I can tell you that without any problem, I start crying for at least 2 hours. I never cry. I never cry. Really, I never cry. And I cried for 2 hours that day. And that's, I will remember forever. And it's a lesson that everything can change in a minute. it was a very strange period because Italy was the second country eaten after China, so it was considering an Italian problems, and I spoke because, as you know, being one member of Focusrite, they interview me in that period. I made an interview which was broadcasted everywhere. Bloomberg called me. I mean, me on Bloomberg live like a reporter from the hell. And I remember many hoteliers are all around the world writing to me and giving me thanks for what I was passing, and I was saying, even an hotelier for China who sent me a box of mask which were we could not find here
That's
in
fantastic.
Italy. An hotelier of China sent me a box of mask and say, okay, save it for your staff. Incredible, really incredible.
Wow.
We will never forget. We have not to forget what is that. We have not to forget.
No, and we've I think as an industry we took everything for granted until the world stopped turning.
Yeah,
and made us
exactly.
rethink. I guess our personal choices, our life choices, but also our business decision at times.
Right.
I'm curious, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I assume your answer is Florence, but because it's such an amazing place. But I'm still curious about this.
Well, I have a preference, but I don't know how it's now because it's but it's London. I mean, I feel home in London. I've worked there. It's a city where
Nice.
which I like more than anywhere in the world. So I would like to live in London.
I can relate to that. I've lived twice in London, different times, and worked in hospitality in London. So I can relate to that. It's a great place.
I feel home there. It's many people will say the seaside or something. No, I would like to be in London, even if I would like to live there for a while now and see how it's doing with Brexit, which seems to be a problem for them.
Yeah. Before we close, and I know education is a big passion of yours, I want to ask you, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone starting out in this industry?
Well, it's such a beautiful industry, first of all, because when I was creating the program of the academy, I realized how many things you need to know to work in hospitality. How many? You need to speak languages. You need to know economy. You need to know very well human resources. Then you need digital. You need design. Many different things. So this jobs gives you such a big background that you can work for any industry. What I say to my students now, it's all right. You're learning to work in hospitality, but after this, you can work really everywhere. I mean, your baggage of knowledge is so big by doing this work, and you have the possibility to meet millions of people, which I did in my career. Have a lot of friends around the world, which will happen. You can travel. It's a great job if you take it and you say, yes, I want to do a career there. And so the advice is study to study hospitality. You know what? I'll tell you one last things. I was reading then if you're over with time we cut. But I was rereading the Steve Jobs biography. Because I've read it after he died, and then it was on my shelf there, and then you forget about it. And in these days, I don't know why, I'll take it back and say, I want to read again what he did, how he was. And there was one thing that was missing, that I had missed in that. And then he was preparing the Apple Store. He sent all the employee to the training of Ritz-Carlton. So he said, "All right, you have to be you have to be trained by Ritz-Carlton to work in an Apple store."
Mm-hmm.
And he sent them all there. And so you see, hospitality is it's everywhere. It's really everywhere.
Hospitality, the school for life and for successful business. So it sounds like.
Yeah,
Giancarlo, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, and the stories you shared today. Thank you so
I know.
much for joining this today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to all you.
Thank you for listening to The Turndown. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in next week as we discover new exciting guests.